Hello, my name is Alan Richardson. I'm a test consultant. Welcome to EvilTester videos. This is not the normal video that I've been doing. What I want to do is just a quick chat video because I don't have time to do anything else, but I want to discuss some strategies that you can use to improve, and some of this is driven by this book. It's by James Gleick on Isaac Newton. It's a very small book, but it's very interesting, very useful. Good introduction to Isaac Newton, his times and his life. And there's a couple of things in here that I thought were useful and relevant in terms of improving. So if we look at Isaac Newton's life, the way it's explained there is Isaac Newton did a lot of work on his own, coming up with ideas, critically thinking them through, doing a lot of research from probably older texts than other people were working from. Not necessarily the newer work. He wasn't building on his peers' work. He was building on work going back a couple of hundred years, critically thinking through the implications, trying to work through from first principles their models and then take them forward. So he did a lot of stuff on his own, but that application of critical thinking was key to what he did. So that's a fundamental skill we have to learn. In terms of my work, what really drove that home for me was in the early days I was doing a lot of stuff on my own. I was putting a lot of blog posts out, or at that time it was essays on work we were doing and things that I thought we needed to do in the future. And at the same time, there's a guy in the States doing a lot of really good work and applying critical thinking to his work. So the stuff he was producing was like elevated way beyond the stuff that anyone else was doing, simply because he was thinking it through several steps ahead through the application of critical thinking. So that was James Bach's work, that critical thinking element that pushes it forward and challenges it. That was useful for me to have an example for applied critical thinking. And then I went on a early training course that he was doing that was exploring that in more detail, which gave me the chance to think about my models of testing more deeply and how to challenge them. And then I've been taking that forward to learn how to do that better, to create better work on my own. But that's what Isaac Newton essentially did in here. But Isaac Newton never really published. And what happened with Isaac Newton is other people in the scientific realm were coming up with ideas that were very similar to him, but not complete, that had assumptions, that weren't accurate. But he had already worked out years before their exact stuff, but he hadn't published. So it took a lot of work for other people to convince him to publish, because he had the answers that they needed in order to build on. And that's one of the key aspects here. If you want to improve, finding people's work that can inspire you to do better where they have laid the groundwork and you can do better on top of it is really important, which is why I try and look for other practitioners that can push you forward. And I'm talking about practitioners. It's really important that you find practitioners. I try and demonstrate through the work that I put out, the blog posts, the YouTube videos, I'm a practitioner and I'm constantly trying to improve. So hopefully you can use some of that work. There's other people. I remember one of the things that got me going down that path, I was at a SIGIST and Anthony Marcano was doing a talk. And he was at the front of the room doing some development work. And at that time, I was a pretty good developer, but I didn't know the IDE as well as he did. I didn't know the tools as well as he did. And he was just streaming through this stuff like it was easy. And I thought, I need to up my game. I need to get at least as good as the stuff that Anthony is demonstrating. But we don't settle for at least. We try and get better. We try and build on these people. I think it was Isaac Newton said, we stand on the shoulders of giants and see further. That's what we're attempting to do. So find practitioners. That's why we do the Black Ops testing. We've got 4 practitioners, me, James Lindsay, Steve Green, Tony Bruce. We all have very different styles, but we all practice testing, so we all come together. Then we learn from each other. And we can help the group of people that are with us learn. So if you go to blackopstesting.com, have a look at that, have a look at our videos where we're describing testing from different points of view, because that's one of the things you gain, particularly when you're collaborating with people. If you can find people to collaborate with, that's great, but it's not essential, provided you use the critical thinking skills to build on what you're doing. Other practitioners at the moment, if I look at it, it's easier to find practitioners in terms of coding and automating, because there's usually a trail of evidence that they leave behind, because they'll put out the code that they've got, or there'll be something examples on GitHub. And at the moment, I'm putting stuff out on GitHub. Mark Winstringham is putting out good stuff on GitHub. Baz Dijkstra is putting out good stuff on GitHub. I noticed Angie Jones has got some stuff on GitHub. The thing to do is, if you see experts and they're talking about automating things, go back and find the code. Look at their repositories on GitHub or email them and ask them, have you got code that demonstrates this thing that you're talking about? Hopefully they will have if they're a practitioner, and you can use that to learn what you're doing. Because either you'll look at it and you go, this isn't very good. You see the stuff you're doing, but then you might get complacent. What you really want to identify are people who are putting out stuff and you go, yeah, that's better than I did. I'm going to push myself and go further. Or they're using something I don't understand. I'm going to look at that, build on it, and go further. But you're only going to find that if you actually identify the practitioners, do the research to find their work, study it, and then build on top. And you absolutely have to publish. That can be as simple as a blog or putting things up on GitHub. Isaac Newton rarely published. So what he saw was the industry rediscovering things he had already discovered that he wasn't getting any credit for, which was fine, but he wasn't really building on the work that anyone else was doing. So he was learning the very expensive way, which is from your own failures. But if you publish, then you can get feedback on what you're doing, and hopefully then you can serve as an example for other people who are looking for practitioners. I mean, part of the reason that I wrote this, Dear EvilTester, is that it describes some of the subjects that I've been studying to build on. Because it's very important that you study the topics that you are interested in deeply, regardless of whether anyone else is studying, and build on them. Because that gives you an edge, and it gives you the ability to publish things that other people are not publishing, or say things that other people are not saying, which might help them. Because if you are looking for practitioner examples, then other people are looking for practitioner examples, and as a practitioner, which I hope you are, you can serve as an example to other people, but only if you actually publish. And all these people that I've mentioned here have published. Therefore, we can look at their work, we can study it, we can understand it, and we can build on it. Those are the strategies that I have used, and I still use, and I'll be using this afternoon to learn more about testing. And I hope that you put some of those into practice as well. And I would love it if you publish, and if you publish, leave some comments below so that I can find your work. Thank you very much.